absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's all-star wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once if you would.
You want the stick?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
The only looking out you need to do is for us, because we are back after a week off for various reasons. We are back at it, and I want to bring in my guys, Polish Joe and Slick Mick. What's up, guys?
Well, me barely, but
we're looking forward to doing another podcast.
Yes, and Joe, welcome back, buddy, and hope all is well with you. And our condolences, our on-air condolences to you, and bless your mom's heart. So,
well, I appreciate it. If I may just take a moment for my mom, and believe it or not, yeah, it does tie into AWA Unleashed. If it wasn't for my mom and my godmother, I would have not been introduced to the AWA. And to fast forward and be able to work for the AWA for, I guess, a total of about 10 years if I combine both runs. And then to do the AWA Unleashed, none of it really would have been possible with my mom. But isn't that the case for a lot of things that wouldn't be possible without your mom? At the wake, I had a friend of mine tell me a phrase that he had heard that I absolutely love. And that is that your mom is your very first best friend. And that is truth times 1,000. And so in honor of my mom, Jen Chupik, we will forge ahead. We will continue to do AWA Unleashed. I will continue to share stories of her and my godmother, a couple of big old Polish women beating the shit out of a friend of mine that we would bring. Well, not literally, but, get him. All of that type of fun stuff. I will continue to do AWA Unleashed in their honor. And so with that, let's roll. Let's roll. It's
ring the bell.
Yeah, if mom would have had it's a challenge to get her to try to watch AWA Unleashed. I think she did once or twice, but it didn't. She ended up falling asleep.
So your mom was more mainstream. What you're saying.
After a couple of minutes of listening to our shit.
Well, bless her heart. Yeah, she earned her stripes.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, let's roll with it. I do have to add one thing. The outpouring of condolences and support on social media from AWA Unleashed fans. Thank you. Funerals suck. Losing a parent sucks. Nothing good came of it other than she's no longer bound to her wheelchair, no longer bound to be in a in a nursing home. So for that, I'm thankful. But I'm also thankful for the 80 years that I had with her. So let's do it.
There you go, buddy.
Well, we love you, Joe. We love you, Joe.
Good man. She raised one hell of a guy.
Yes,
and that's the last compliment that I will deliver your way.
Yeah, I know things are getting a little bit too mushy
They
here.
really are.
All right. Well, let's change it and let's upset people by telling you all about things that we do offer. First of all, if you do want to help us expand, and if you want to become a member of our Patreon, I'm telling you guys, we've got a watch along that is coming up next week. We've got a live chat that's going to be coming up on Sunday night at 7:00. And if you want to become a part of that, just go ahead and sign up for $4.99. We've got some, things that are in the hopper. Obviously, we've, life intervened, so we've had to push those off. But we do have that, as well as tpublic.com for shirts, mugs, phone cases, whatever you want. I've got my Slick Mick coffee cup right there. I drink my coffee out of it, and Joe would drink vodka, and Mick would, I don't know what Mick would drink. What would you, like, if you could put one drink in here, what would it be?
Can't you take a look at me and know that would be a protein shake?
Speed?
Geriatric, maybe, but
Speed. Oh, didn't miss a beat. All right. Well, this week, guys, we're coming back with we had to change course a little bit. We were going to do a topic last week that is relevant. We do have a question about it coming up later on, so we're going to spend a little bit of time on it. But we're going to go back to a no DQ&A because there's never a shortage of questions. Right. And if you have a question, obviously Mick has got a bunch of them that people ask him, people ask Joe. But if you want it, submit it, AWA Unleashed Podcast at gmail.com. So are we ready, boys, to get into it?
Well done, my friend. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. From Gary Krebs. Says, absolutely love the podcast. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you. As a longtime AWA fan, I watched the great and the bad years. I'd like to ask all of you, what do you think are the 3 biggest misconceptions about the AWA? I'll let you go first, Mick. Misconceptions.
Misconceptions about the AWA. I would say the biggest misconception for the average fan today is that the AWA was just not a very good promotion, because generationally they might have seen the last years of the AWA. So you're talking about 3-4 years where the AWA started to go downhill, but you had 30 years prior to that they were a tremendously successful promotion. I would argue in the early 1980s, they were the most successful promotion until Hogan left town. So I think you see that a lot because people talk about, oh, Vern did this, by AWA. They were a powerhouse for 3 decades before things started to go under. What a business, like a Macy's or another store, Kmart or whatever, is a powerhouse for 30 years and then goes into the tank, and you say, well, they were terrible. They couldn't get their shit together. That's not the way it works. So I think that to me would be the biggest misconception.
I've got 2 of them. One is that the AWA would have survived and thrived if Hulk Hogan had stayed. And 2, that Stanley Blackburn wasn't a real person. He was indeed a real person, may not have had the power of what his title,
How'd you give him a thumbs up? How did you do that?
What?
I can't do that. Oh, somebody had they did like a thumbs. Yeah, how do you do that?
Oh, well, I looked up my
it was on your
phone.
screen.
Oh, wow. I have no. How the hell did that start happening?
How are you doing that? How are you doing that?
No. Is there a setting in here?
Oh my
Oh,
God, I'm already distracted 10 minutes in.
Hey, the Kenny J.
Wow.
How are you doing that?
I have no
You're like
idea.
a magician.
My God, you mentioned Stanley Blackburn's name, and it's like somebody gets a gold ticket on America's Got Talent. You know, the golden buzzer. You know,
And the green screen's about as good as the AWA's was at the end. I mean,
nothing is that good. Yeah, wow.
but anyway, those are the two misconceptions that pop to mind for me.
And
You
I
got
don't think
one?
I've got a misconception. No, no, because I only saw the bad stuff. I do think, Mick, kind of to piggyback off of what you were talking about, that people didn't see the heyday because there wasn't a way for people to see it. There wasn't a national television, something,
Right.
you know, what propelled Vince in the mid to late 80s was the syndication. There wasn't, it was more of a regional thing. So the promotion itself had all the talent in the world, but nobody could see it. And by the time people did see it, they saw the later days, and that's the impression that people get. That's my thought on it.
Yeah. Well said, Chris. And let's also, of course, throw Pat O'Connor in there. And there's another misconception, but we'll leave it at that. But yeah, great question. Great question. Thank you.
This one from Leonard Lee said, "Great job every show, you guys. Thank you. I'm a fan going back to the territory days. Lived in Omaha, but followed all the magazine and fan club newsletters. Maybe this one is more of a Mick specific question because of his time in the business, but I noticed women wrestlers were far more active in other territories than the AWA. Was there a reason for that? When did it change? Do you have some pictures of the ladies who wrestled, if not frequently, in the AWA?"
Great question. It's interesting. The AWA, yeah, would have the ladies come in once, maybe twice a year. They were pretty much featured in the southern part of the United States and the central part of the United States. They would wrestle much more often. Got to remember too, when we're talking about the WWF territory and the East Coast, couldn't wrestle if you were a woman at Madison Square Garden until the 1970s. So really, the AWA wasn't alone in showcasing the women by them, you know, as an entity by themselves. Southern, you look at old Southern wrestling results and news clips, women were on a lot of those shows. That is Kay Noble. Kay was the first, one of the first recognized AWA champions back in the day. She was married.
Why do we have a picture of Kay Noble in the Why do we have a picture of Kay Noble in the kitchen? I mean, this
I'll
is
tell
kind
you
of a
exactly
sexist
why.
picture.
Tell you why that is.
Okay.
Because that picture is taken from a Gagne Metrics Vern Gagne exercise manual, and Kay is actually, she is doing an isometric exercise on either side of the kitchen drawer. Sexist though it may be, because, well, you know, the women, well, give them a kitchen drawer, they can certainly push on both sides of that, but that's where that picture came from. And Kay was tough. I had mentioned before, I got her firsthand knowledge that Kay Noble would fight men, women. She didn't care. If there's a riot broke out in the building, Kay was the first one in the ring throwing people out. So Kay was one of the regulars in the AWA. And also, I would say, Chris, too, it changed. It changed in the rock and wrestling era, I think, is when it really, maybe a little bit before when cable first started to hit, but certainly when Wendy Richter and Cyndi Lauper made their appearances for WWF, that's when things really took off. And all of a sudden, you got this big spotlight on women's wrestling. Certainly not nearly as powerful as it is today, but I would say probably about 40 years ago is when things changed.
And as it relates to the AWA, it would have been when really Sherry Martel, I think, was the first benchmark, the first elevation of a woman wrestler in the AWA. And of course, here is Vivian Vachon.
Oh, Vivian, again, mainstay in the 1970s. Talk about tough. How can you be a Vachon and not be very, very tough? She was a regular when the AWA would run shows around the Horn in the 70s. Vivian was there. She also starred in a movie, The Wrestling Queen, which was a kind of a documentary about her career. To your point, Joe, yeah, when the AWA started to get that national and worldwide exposure on ESPN, and then they brought in the Sherry Martells and the Medusas of the world, that's when the AWA started to feature the ladies much more often.
Yeah, it almost felt like rather than, well, not almost felt, rather than it being a once or twice a year attraction, they were involved pretty much in every All-Star Wrestling or ESPN Championship Wrestling broadcast.
And look at this cutie. There's our friend Dixie Jordan. I don't know how old Dixie was there. It looks to me like she had just started her career, which I believe was in her late teens. That one would take you back to the probably early to mid 1960s. So when there was AWA ladies wrestling in the territory and in the Minneapolis, St. Paul, wherever, Dixie as Princess Little Cloud was one of the mainstays. So, again, a trailblazer, and boy, has the women's wrestling landscape changed.
Oh, deservedly so.
Yep. All righty. Next up.
Yeah, absolute 100%. The women deserve their shine. From Mike Reinhouse, probably a little more for Joe and Mick. With so many great AWA champions over the years, who do you think was the most ill-advised choice to carry the title?
Can I grab that one, Joe?
I've got my take as well. Go right ahead, my friend.
I think the average listener to this show would be, they're going to say Otto Vance. I don't think so. Otto Vance was not an ill-advised choice because it was short-term. Vern got $50,000 out of the deal, and no harm, no foul, except for maybe you questioned Otto Vance's technical skills. It was quick. It was in and out. The ill-advised choice to me was Stan Hansen. As great as Stan Hansen was, of all the people, if you're going to be a Vern Gagne and you're a traditionalist and and that's Stan going against Rick Martel right there. If you have concerns about Billy Robinson not giving back a belt or dropping a strap so you never put it on him, double that with Stan Hansen. He was so huge in Japan. He wasn't going to commit to an AWA championship where he had to be in the territory 300 days out of the year. He added luster to the title, no question about it. And Stan's great. Stan's an all-time great, but he is not the rebellious kind of guy that you want to put the championship on. And history has proved that out.
Mick, I agree with your assessment because of the word ill-advised.
Yep.
I mean, there could be one word too with a hyphen. Anyway, you're right about Otto Vance. Stupid and foolish, but not ill-advised because Vern got some money, short run, and so forth, as you had mentioned. But Stan running over the belt and then mailing it back created some tension. Vern was pissed. Fortunately, the two of them were able to resolve their differences later on in life. But putting it on Stan initially, great idea. Giving him a run, to me, great idea. You do the 2020 or hindsight is 2020, the most ill-advised championship gift in AWA history.
There we go.
Was Vern trying to get some sort of rub in Japan and get some sort of credibility in Japan because that's where Stan liked to work a lot?
Vern had the credibility in Japan, earlier on. I mean, Nick had been there. He had the Jumbo Shiruda run, and, Baba, of course, had come in from Japan. So they already had that connection. I think just Vern wanted a nationally or worldwide recognized star up to and including Japan. I don't know, from a commercial standpoint, what their agreement was. But again, as Joe said, my God, for Stan Hansen, Japan was a really fucking lucrative deal. And, he was not going to give that up. He didn't need the AWA title. Let's just say that. Stan Hansen was an attraction by himself. What do you got to put the belt on the guy for? Risky.
And as far as, why Stan, I've always been under the belief that having the belt on a heel back in the day sold more tickets. And let's face it, that's what it was.
Money's in the chase. Money's in the chase, right? I've heard that before.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you had Rick Martel have it for a while. So to me, it was natural to put it on Stan. But again, hindsight being 2020, it cost Vern a belt.
Yeah, sure did. But Stan's nearsighted. Maybe he didn't know he was running over the belt.
I was going to say the 2020 hindsight's better than whatever eyesight Stan Hansen had.
Oh, my God.
From Jessica Lee Anderson, she writes, Mick and Joe talked about how Vern could not trust Tom Zenk enough to put him on top with the AWA tag team title. The guy certainly had the look. Would he have made a good tag team champion? I'll let you guys go ahead and kick this one off.
Go ahead, Joe.
Would he have, from a fan's perspective? Yes, but Tom he brought way too much baggage with him for the behind the scenes. Trust or not, I mean, we just talked about Stan Hansen. So who do you know how you can trust? Vern certainly trusted Nick Bockwinkel for many years. But as far as Tom Zenk goes, maybe later, when he did come back for a short run, but there again, you don't know how long he was going to stay. He was a bit of a nomad because of his locker room controversy, his locker room policies. He, in Tom Zenk's eyes, he was Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel, Lou Thez all rolled into one. And sometimes you got to temper yourself, and he was not able to do that, unfortunately, and I'll leave it at that.
I don't know if you can say that Tom hated the wrestling business, but I think he had a real skewed view of it.
Yes.
By the way, that is Mark Laurinaitis, Road Warrior Animal's brother, posing there with Tom Zenk. Singles, tag team, you're still putting a guy on top. You're still putting a guy in the spotlight in a main event position where you're going to be relying on him. And Tom Zenk just was not the guy. I mean, the road trips that I went on with Tom, he just bitched about the business all the time. And I know it's documented. He didn't like the payoffs he was getting, even in WWF. Tom Zenk made a lot of money in the business. When he was in WCW, they didn't use him a lot in his Z-Man capacity, but they paid him to stay home. I mean, he's still making a ton of money. So I think attitude-wise, again, $1 million body. I don't want to say 10-cent brain, but I would say 10-cent attitude when it came to the business.
And he sadly delved into some party favors, we'll put it, that didn't help. Didn't help him get along with promoters as well. I'll leave it at that. You can fill in those blanks.
There we go. Next up.
All right, let's go to the next one from Johnny Tressman. Yep, from oh, sorry, did you get me there?
Yeah, you're a little bit little off.
All right. Oh yeah, well, I'm a little off. Yeah, my internet's a little goofy today. It'll figure itself out. If it doesn't, then we'll just have a weird episode, which we always have weird episodes.
It's like when I'm looking at Chris, I feel like I'm watching an old karate movie.
Yeah, it should be subtitled.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
From Johnny Tressman, Heard you guys talk about how Larry Nelson was such a happy-go-lucky party guy. Why did he always look so angry on TV? Was he always hungover? I'm going to put the picture up. I'm going to reboot the screen, and you guys talk about the drunk party boy, Larry Nelson.
Let's take a look at the picture because I know what this one is, Joe. And you worked closer with Larry than I did, but I think the question certainly speaks to the picture that we're going to put up of Larry. Happy-go-lucky party guy? No.
When he was partying, yes, he was happy-go-lucky. I have stated before on this podcast that Larry was a true professional and could hit his countdown mark in ways that just fascinated me. How the hell he was able to hit the mark. Yeah. Larry always being hungover depends on what your definition of always is. Now, if 98% of the time is always, then yes, Larry always seemed like he was recuperating from the night before. As far as being angry, Larry was a very animated interviewer. He was unlike Marty O'Neill, who was sort of the straight man. He wasn't the comedic foil of a Mean Gene Okerlund. Larry really wore his emotions on his sleeve when he was doing interviews. And so maybe he came across as angry. Maybe his animated personality with his hangover combined with having to deal with Vern on interview days and so forth, just the whole ball of wax. And I don't think Larry really was truly happy. In fact, I know he wasn't like truly happy doing interviews and shit. He really would just rather do voiceover work and some color commentary or play-by-play if needed. But doing the interviews weren't really his thing. He expressed that to me a few times. And so maybe all of that just sort of came through with his delivery. But I wouldn't say Larry was angry. I just don't think, no. He was hungover and didn't care for what he was doing that much.
Larry was not an angry guy. I think he was basically a happy guy. I think he tried to get the product over, especially when he was dealing with heels, when he bounced up and down when the blaster, burst through the wall and had an orgasm, the original yeet on the wrestling. I
got his yeet all over the floor.
He did. He yeeted all over the set. I think you're absolutely right as far as Larry, the tension dealing with Vern, because I know when Larry stopped going to Las Vegas and I was going to be the guy, Larry said to me, "You can take this shit. I'm done with it." So I think that was probably a pretty good indicator that Larry was not exactly euphoric, at least in the late 80s working for the AWA.
Yeah,
great guy, though. Great guy.
He literally got thrust into pretty much everything that he did when you saw him on camera. Larry's favorite thing to do was when we had AWA Superstars, which was another syndicated show where he could do whatever the hell he wanted as the host. In fact, that's where I got the Polish Joe moniker. Superstars was a very fun version of AWA All-Star Wrestling. And Vern hated it so much, by the way, as a side note, because in the markets that we were on, our ratings were better than AWA All-Star Wrestling.
God bless Larry Nelson.
Yes.
What was the Master Blaster? Was that a rib on Larry? Did they know that he would get worked up, or was that just something that naturally happened and it was a real emotion?
It's not a real emotion because you're part of the show, but it was an emotion, real emotion times 10 times 20. and just so over the top. But in retrospect, that is one of my favorite AWA moments of their declining years. Just watching Larry bouncing up and down like the guys on a pogo stick. What in the blue hell? You broke the wall.
Over the top. I mean, it's professional wrestling, so by definition, it's over the top. Larry was over the top.
Bingo.
He became orgasmic Larry Nelson with that blaster interview.
Yeah, there you go.
This one is from Sean Campbell for you guys. Thank you for keeping the memories alive. It's always great to see a picture here, memory to take me back. Question is, does anyone know if the Iron Duke Jim Mitchell is still with us? If so, I'd love to see him on the pod. He was such a character.
Wow. Well, first of all, yes, Jim was a character. There's no question about it. As a referee, the poor guy, Jim had a birth defect, and he only had, I believe, like a finger and a thumb on one hand. And we mentioned before, when he would referee in the AWA, the crowd was just merciless. I mean, he no matter what he did, if he gave somebody a 2 count and he raised his hand in the air, you had 15,000 people screaming 2, and so they were pretty hard on Jim. He was a great guy. Of course, Jim Mitchell wrestled as the Iron Duke. There you see him getting in the face of Nick Bockwinkel. Jim had his own promotion in the state of Minnesota, the NCWA, North Central Wrestling Association. Had an opportunity to work for him and with him. He's a straight shooter, stand-up guy, and I don't know if Jim is still with us. I know he had some physical problems. He was living up in the Forest Lake, Minnesota area. I hope he's still around. God, I would love to get that guy on the air, but I just don't know. Haven't seen Jim in years.
I think of Jim Mitchell, and I think of what Kurt Hennig, the nickname that he gave him. Now, as you talked about his birth defect, I believe, basically the hang 10 in Hawaiian, but for Jim, that was his natural hand. So he had this, and so Kurt Hennig nicknamed him the human ice scraper. Just saying, that's what it was.
Kurt always had those endearing terms for people. That's.
I don't know that endearing would exactly.
It's endearing to call somebody a human ice scraper.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? Put Jim Mitchell on you leave him in the trunk just in case it snows? Come on, it's. Oh Lord. Anyway,
that's a great
Iron
line.
Duke Jim Mitchell. There you go. Love the guy. We'll have to check and see if he's still around. Next question.
Yeah, I was looking and I couldn't see it. I was looking and couldn't see it. Hey, for Joe or Mick, do you think the AWA dropped the ball with Dirty Dick Slater? I saw him on old Georgia and Florida shows. Thought the guy was a tremendous worker. I like Dirty Dick. I got to admit.
We know.
Did you realize what you just said?
Of course he did.
Dirty Dick Slater. Oh my God, guys, grow up.
Dick Slater, yeah,
way
too late.
Now.
Are you kidding? Dirty Dick Slater was a tremendous talent. If you watched him on Georgia Championship Wrestling or the Florida Championship Wrestling shows in the 1980s, the early 80s, he was one hell of a talent, great on-screen presence, and a legitimate tough guy. Joe, you were there when he came into the AWA. I think it was just kind of one of those things when the AWA is throwing stuff at the wall to see if it'll stick. Dick Slater was not going to be the kind of guy. He's a Florida guy. He's not going to stay up in the AWA territory in the dead of winter, when it's 100 degrees warmer, where he lives. Brought him in as kind of a tag team partner to Kurt Hennig when Kurt was turning heel in the AWA. Did they drop the ball? I don't think they dropped the ball. They never really had a handle on it. I mean, he wasn't here that long to establish himself.
Drop the ball? No, because nobody really had a firm grasp of the ball.
Yeah.
with the AWA at that point. That's not a shot at Vernon Gregg or anybody in the office. It was just literally in disarray. And Dick Slater was not going to save the AWA at the time. Fantastic worker, great promos. But Mick, you were right. He wasn't going to stay up here for long. If he would have gotten paid well, then maybe. But the reality is nobody was really getting paid well during those days because AWA was not drawing. That's just the sad fact. So here's one for you, Chris. So Dick got in and got out real quick.
But you all like Dirty Dick.
Yeah, man, Chris didn't flinch at all when you said that. It's like he's, okay, so, and what else is new? But,
Next question.
Go ahead.
I love
get up.
Go ahead, pal.
Did Dick get up for the run? Did Dick get up for the run? That's all I want to know.
Dick got put in his place.
Okay.
We lost our last listener. He's gone. That's it.
That's okay. Somebody who likes Dirty Dick like we do. From Julia Schneider, here's a question for Mick that has more of a regional tie-in. I believe you worked with Tracy Smothers in the early 2000s. Do you think he might have been a good bad guy addition to the AWA?
I loved working with Tracy Smothers. I can't tell you what a great guy he was off camera. And he had that goofy, whatever they called him in WCW when he was the Hot Guns or whatever, the Little Derringers or whatever. He was a tremendous heel, and I think Tracy Smothers probably
Southern White Boys or something
like that. Yeah, that was not Tracy.
Southern White Boys. Yeah, it was something like that.
And of course he went to ECW as one of the the FBI, the full-blooded Italians. Tracy Smothers. Tracy was such a great heel. I worked with him in Steel Domain Wrestling. And not only was he a great guy to work with, he was such a genius. He would come up with these ideas, or he would just, whatever you want to do, just tell me. And he would get such tremendous heat. And I think where Tracy would have fit in very well with the AWA is not so much with the late 1970s AWA, but he would have been a great addition to Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch, because he could come out and he could spew that anti-Northern sentiment and do it with the best of them. And this is one guy, I think, as people look at the wrestling history, the wrestling business, is one guy who's really underrated. I mean, he was so freaking good. And to work with him in Steel Domain, and when he came out, he called Ed Hellier and I the Book and the Crook. Which to me said it all. And we lost Tracy, not too long ago, and great talent. Yeah, he would have been a great heel in the AWA.
I didn't work with Tracy. Saw some of his stuff, but that was during a period of time where I didn't watch a whole bunch of wrestling, and it was tough to see him. He was on Steel Domain and would have been on Channel 45 back in the day, I believe, right, Mick?
Yeah, and talk about a fearless guy too. There's footage out there, when he would start these riots, and just stand in the ring with people throwing hundreds of chairs at him, and he would just deflect them one after another and say, "Come on, you keep it going." Legit tough guy, but a great guy, Tracy Smothers.
Yeah, he was part of the Southern Boys with Steve Armstrong in WCW. That's kind of where that's kind of what I knew it was something to do with Southern. With the Southern Boys. So yes. Let's go to the next one from Tim Gordon from Mick and Joe. Heard you guys refer to a podcast you did back in the day with Baron Von Raschke as your guest. Would it be possible to get him on again? And what were the circumstances of that first pod? I remember it didn't go so well.
Joe, why don't you address the updated whether or not we can get Baron on the show, and then we'll go backward in time.
I think Baron has mostly or mainly retired. I think he does maybe an appearance here or there, but I don't think we're going to be able to get Baron on the air. Last time I saw him at El Darush's wake, he still has his wits about him. Physically, he's not able to. Not that he needs to have any physical dexterity to do this show. I mean, shit, take a look at the three of us. But I don't know that Baron would. How do I put this in being as respectful as I can? I don't think Baron could go an hour.
Gotcha.
So take that for what it's. I don't think he could go an hour. Now, never say never until never is not here anymore. I'll keep working on it and see what I can do, but I'm not gonna. I wouldn't bet on being able to get Baron on the show, sadly.
As far as the the other time we had him on the air, excuse me.
God.
We've talked about this. I've never laughed so hard in 40 years of doing wrestling stuff. We were at Joe's studio in Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota. We were doing, I believe, a Steel Domain wrestling podcast. And Baron was our remote guest. It's not on camera. It's strictly over the phone. And we were taping early in the morning. And I don't know if we just got Baron out of bed or if he was still in bed. But something happened to the Baron's phone. And I'm guessing, he's using one of his ears as a pillow. And the phone must have dropped down underneath the sheets or something, because for 10 minutes, all you're hearing from Baron is, and I'm busting a gut. I mean, I literally, and Joe, to Joe's credit, when Baron would take a breath, Joe would jump in with a question, not having heard Baron's answer to the previous question, but he would get the same answer. Or it sounded like it. That was basically the entire interview with Baron von Raschke until Joe said, Baron, it's been great. We'd love to have you on again.
I never knew that Baron von Raschke was also Charlie Brown's teacher. Yeah. And there was nothing that I could do from a technical end to get it fixed. When it first started, yeah, you could hear Baron. Then Mick, I think you're right. I think it went from this to, oh, hey, what are you guys up to? Everything good? Yeah, love it. So yeah.
And you want to be respectful. You don't want to say, hey, Jim, we can't hear a fucking thing you're saying here, buddy. So we just let him go. And honest to God, Chris, I can't tell you how hard I was laughing. I literally, my stomach muscles, both of them, were just absolutely cramped up. It was a great, great moment. One of the all-time great podcasts. Love the Baron, and God bless him. Good health to him.
Yes. And I'll keep trying, but again, no guarantee.
Those are making memories, though.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. Well, I completely understand. Just because it doesn't happen doesn't mean we're not efforting.
Yep.
This one is for me from Pam Soldoff. For me, if we ever consider just having a casual one-night get-together for members of the Unleashed Army that could attend, I live in Colorado and I'd still be there. We were going to do one, but it conflicted with my it was the After Dark, and it conflicted with my Minnesota Twins schedule because I do local post game for the Twins. I think it's something. Once the weather turns, I know that we've got it. It sounds like a lot of empty promises, right? But we do have ideas there. It's just a matter of working it out with the schedule. But I mean, we still have things we would like to do. So yeah. Just keep it in mind, Pam. We will try and give everybody as much heads up as we can.
I'm thinking if Pam's question was AWA Unleashed Army specific, if we're going to get some of the jamokes in the AWA Unleashed Army from the Twin Cities area, like Doug Frazee, like Bruce Anderson. Can you imagine? And you put that together with Chupik at the Croatian Hall.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a one and done, I'm afraid. And I would say, but it would certainly be memorable. But no, we wouldn't remember it either.
Well, it would be an opportunity for me to finally go to the Croatian Hall. You know, after all these years and hearing countless times how great the place is, this would be a good excuse for me to finally get there.
It's like
hello,
Jerry Blackwell saying, "I can finally go to a buffet." You know, it's.
I was going to say it's finally like going to see Oz. Joe's finally going to see the wizard.
Don't pull back that curtain if you don't want to see what's behind it.
You know, and to have Pam come into town, you know, now that she said she'd come into town if we put that event on, shit, now we got to do it. You know, just to see Pam soul.
I mean, if we would, we do it. We'll figure something out, and we'll get all the Mick heads together.
Absolutely.
This one from Barry Savard. Love the show, guys. Your chemistry is so great. Thank you. When the internet, again, my internet's goofy. I know that. Which AWA tag team would each of you say in their prime would have given the Road Warriors a run for their money in a bar fight? We've got 3 of them here, guys. There were some badass motherfuckers that were a part of that AWA roster. So I'll let you guys go through and I'll put the pictures up because I agree with all 3 of these.
Bar fight. The Road Warriors in a bar fight. Yeah, they'd be tough. Now, if you go back to certain teams in their prime, in their physical prime, away from the wrestling ring, I think we have some teams that I think would do very well throwing hands with the Road Warriors. And we're going to take a look at one of them right there. Joe, I would assume this would have been one of your choices.
Yeah, just out of sheer love out of my youth and seeing these 2 battle it in the ring without question. But, you know, surprising or not, I would still give the edge to the Road Warriors in this battle, but not by much. They would have given them a run for their money. Why do I say that? Well, Crusher and Bruiser weren't exactly tall. You know, they were thick, but they were more like fire hydrants, where Animal and Hawk were bigger. I think they had more size to them. Would have been close, but I'm giving the edge to the Road Warriors in that one.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, let's bring up another one, Chris. You know, we could throw Rhodes and Murdoch in there, of course, as another team that would have loved to get into a fight with anybody. You know, Cops, Road. The Vachon brothers. This is interesting. I don't know how tough Butcher Vachon was. He was a big guy, about 6'3", 300 pounds. I'm sure he could more than handle himself. Just by his last name, you know, he could. That other little guy there, you know, Mad Dog Vachon. You talked about the size of the fight, as they say. You know, it's not the size of the fight or the dog of the fight. It's the fight in the dog. Very few people in wrestling have a reputation as being tougher than Mad Dog Vachon. Now, would they have held up against the Road Warriors at the Flame Cafe with tables tipping over? I don't know about that, but that would be interesting. I would say at the very least, Animal and Hawk would get away with a couple of bite marks on their legs or thighs or something else after that one.
Yeah, I only was able to watch Butcher, never met him. So I had not really heard stories about how tough he was or not. Mad Dog, definitely heard stories about how tough he was. In fact, I'm going to compare Mad Dog Vachon to Captain America. And I can just see Mad Dog saying, I can do this all day.
Yeah.
He was that yippy little dog that, like a chihuahua, he would, you think, he's small, he's tiny, he can't do shit to me. Try him. Go ahead. Put the finger out. Put the finger out. Let's see if he bites it off.
This is the team that I would say, if anybody's going to go over on Joe and Mike in a bar, you're looking at them right here. Larry Hennig and Harley Race. We've heard for years just how tough Harley is to a man in the business, unless it's, you hear Haku mentioned once in a while. Harley Race is always near the top of the toughest guys in the history of wrestling. Larry Hennig does not get mentioned that way because I guess he didn't live the wild lifestyle necessarily that Harley Race did, but Larry was one tough son of a bitch, and he was a big dude. He didn't back down from anybody. I know firsthand again, when Horst Hoffman, very tough German wrestler, tried to challenge Larry at some point in the locker room. Didn't go so well for Horst Hoffman. Larry was a big dude, 6'3", 300. Harley Race, tough as nails. Eddie Sharkey said he's never seen anybody tougher than Harley in the business. So if there's going to be a pick 'em or you lean one way or the other, I got to go with Larry and Harley in this one, even against the Roadies.
I'm sitting here listening to what you said. And by the way, I agree 100% on Harley and Larry. It could be done in a video game. But that's not like you're relying on sort of a third person. But I would love to see AI technology be able to bring back and show a wrestling match of, let's say, the Road Warriors in their prime against Hennig and Race in their prime, or against Crusher and Bruiser in their prime. Not in an animated character, but like in their embodiment. So AI, pick it up a notch. I need to see these matches. That would be phenomenal. In fact, there might be something in the works along those lines. We'll leave it at that.
Living hell in a squared circle. If you got Hennig and Race and the Road Warriors, let alone at Grandma B's,
Yep.
It would be one hell of a show.
Leave your guns in the locker room.
There you go. Yeah.
Living hell in the squared circle. That's the name for the match.
There you go.
That's how you promote it.
Yep.
That's your tagline. That's your tagline. Got a couple more here, guys. This one from Vic Acosta in Chicago. Love the show. Wondering about your take on the Hulk Hogan debacle, getting booed out of the building recently. Do you guys think he deserved it? Very curious to hear what your take is. And Vic is, of course, referring to the WWE Netflix debut on Raw on Netflix back on January 6th. So Hogan came out, did a promo at the end of the show with Jimmy Hart, got booed incredibly out of the building. And this was going to be our topic last week, guys. Full disclosure to everybody, because, this is kind of something that we wanted to give our 2 cents in terms of the AWA and, persona and the attitude, but we're going to spend a little bit more time on this one. Cause I think we've all got thoughts on it, but, I'll let you guys start, but just full disclosure, this was going to be our topic last week. So we might spend we're not going to go long, but we'll spend a few extra minutes on this one. Go ahead and kick it off, you guys. Then I'll just kind of chime in periodically.
To the point, did he deserve it? I don't know. I mean, it depends on how you view Hulk Hogan. If you view Hulk Hogan as this is a wrestling event, has nothing to do with anything outside the ring, and look what Hulk Hogan did for the business, and this was merciless, and so on and so forth, then you say no, he didn't deserve it at all. If you look at Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan outside the ring, and you look at his history of racist comments, of his bullshit about using steroids over the years, you hear some stories about the backstage politicking and manipulation and so forth. Whether or not you're, going to throw Donald Trump in that mix or not, I don't know. Then you got a whole different view of Hulk Hogan. And you say to yourself, yeah, the minute that prick came out on stage, he got everything that he had coming to him. Finally, nobody's buying the BS anymore. So, it depends how you look at it. I'm one of these guys. I was a Hulk Hogan fan, but I wasn't enthralled. I'm working the AWA at the time, so I'm taking the pictures at ringside, and I'm seeing the pop that he got and the electricity. And then you hear people say, well, Hulk Hogan made wrestling. No, he didn't. Wrestling made Hulk Hogan. Vern Gagne made Hulk Hogan. You add into that the saying the prayers and eating the vitamins, and I never took steroids a day in my life. This guy's got a track record. So can you be a fan of what Hulk Hogan accomplished in the wrestling business? Yes, no question about it. Biggest star of all time? Probably, yeah. Hulk Hogan, the man, different story. So do I think he deserved it? I would lean towards, yeah, he did. That'd be my take on it.
I've said on this podcast before that Hulk Hogan deserves his credit for changing professional wrestling. Right guy at the right time. Yeah, have to add that in there. Did he deserve it? I guess it's sort of subjective. But I will put it like this. For those that think just, it's only because he's pro-Trump. Well, how come they didn't boo The Undertaker, who has expressed his fondness of Trump? I would say that it really is years of baggage that was the reason that Hulk Hogan got booed. Personally, Hulk, quit wearing cut-off sleeved shirts. You're 70 some years old, and yeah, you're still in decent shape for more than most guys your age. But if I remember, you were complaining about an old man Vern Gagne wrestling in the ring. Well, you're not wrestling, but you're still trying to be the incredible Hulk Hogan. And time has caught up with you. It's time to retire it. And if the fans want to boo you, ask yourself why. Because you've not lived up to your all-American hero. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, do the right thing type of a thing. And no, that's not saying that being a Trump supporter, you're doing the wrong thing. That's all subjective. Everybody's got their own opinions on that. Your embodiment of what you've become and what you have done, all of that together, and you got your booze. And I'm going to say that, yeah, he did deserve it.
And, the day after this happened, I'm a producer and I'm a co-host for a radio show here, WCCO Radio, here in the Twin Cities. And this was something that we talked about the day after. Hulk Hogan, when I was a kid, Hulkamania was the thing. Like, I was the target demographic because the WWF was just getting that national TV deal. And I told you guys, like, I've been going through one of those mid to late 80s Saturday Night's Main Event. I've been binging those because I wanted to see Hulk Hogan at that point in time and just exactly what the reaction was like for Hulkamania, off the charts. And I think over the course of time, you hear these stories about, exercising his quote unquote creative control and I didn't use the steroids. And, all of these, I was the Mickey Mantle of wrestling, and just kind of all of these over the top, absurd, self-serving comments. And you're like, I feel like there's a lot of fabrication in what Hulk Hogan believed was reality and what really was. With the racist comments, using the N-word, talking about his daughter's boyfriend, I think going back to the Bubba the Love Sponge sex tape and ruining a friendship over that, where he had the lawsuit with Gawker back in 2012. I don't think maybe those who booed him for his association with Donald Trump and, being in that side of the political aisle, maybe there was part of it, but I don't think that the politics was a reason why he got booed, because you guys said, yeah, Undertaker didn't get booed. I also think they did one thing by not putting him on a microphone, but I also feel like the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, he didn't get booed because they didn't give him a microphone. They didn't boo Stephanie McMahon when they showed her in the crowd. They did not boo Triple H when he got on the microphone. And those guys are Donald Trump supporters. So they didn't boo. So why was it that they booed Hulk Hogan? But like I said, they didn't boo Stephanie, they didn't boo Undertaker, and they didn't boo Triple H. There are a lot of things outside of politics, and over the course of the years that Hulk Hogan has proven to be less than on the up and up with this character. And so, yeah, Hulkamania, Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, will always be a big, big part of my childhood and a big reason why wrestling is what it is. Terry Bollea, on the other hand, I think Terry Bollea was the one that killed Hulkamania.
I think that is brilliantly stated. Wrestling fans are they're a very stubborn lot in terms of if they love a guy.
And plus we know more at this time.
That's exactly.
Plus we know more things, right? Like we have access to more information than we did before. And I think it can be good and it can be bad.
Yeah, you're right there too, Chris. And wrestling fans are a hardened lot in terms of if they love a guy, they're going to overlook stuff. Maybe more than the average guy on the street would, because it gets to be this hero worship thing. And I'm not drawing a direct comparison between the two, but you think about the Chris Benoit situation. And, Chris, that was a whole different deal, with him and his medical state or whatever. But there's people that will, to this day, no, Chris Benoit didn't do this. And, Chris Benoit, he was a victim of a conspiracy, and he this and this, and he should be in the Hall of Fame. And wrestling fans wear blinders on when it comes to their heroes. And I think with Hogan, to your point, Chris, about now in this day and age, you can't hide anything. And all the warts come to the surface. And in wrestling, there's heat. There's heat for a heel. There's also what they call go away heat, where the fans have just finally, it's not that we don't like your wrestling character anymore or we're tired of it. I think
we
Roman
don't like
Reigns,
you, the person.
That's exactly right. I think Roman Reigns at one point, maybe even John Cena, had what they call the go away heat. That has resolved itself. But you're absolutely right. Now the flaws and the scars are all out there for everybody to see. Mel Gibson can be a great actor, but damn it, you spew this racist and anti-Semitic stuff. These guys are playing a role. That's what the bottom line is here. The real person is underneath all the makeup and the bright lights. And that's what you got to remember. So very interesting. I think it would be a huge mistake if WWF or WWE continues to try to parade Hogan out there. I think the deed has been done. Let's move on.
And for those
I said he's a PR nightmare.
Yeah. He is. Yeah.
Yeah, and for those who want to complain about cancel culture or something like that, take a look in the mirror, because it's on both sides of the aisle. And I don't call it cancel culture. I call that freedom of speech. I don't have to like or respect Terry Bollea. And I don't. I give all of the credit in the world to a Hulk Hogan for what he had done in the business, but not the person. That's my freedom of speech. Am I canceling them? That happened a long time ago. I haven't been a fan for decades.
Well, I think it's about accountability. To me, it's the cancel culture. That's not a thing. It's just about accountability, right? Like, you have to be accountable for what you do. And I really believe nowadays, guys, whether you're in entertainment, music, wrestling, whatever, we are now looking at not the performer. We now root for the person based on their character, not necessarily the character that they're playing in whatever performance. We're looking at the person who's playing that. And I feel like that's how we're judging people now.
Well, and in wrestling, with the cat being out of the bag, wrestling fans know now, the jig is up. They know everybody's playing a role, so that now you're getting to see, well, the real person, behind the scenes. So if I were Hulk Hogan, I think I would, put the boots away, put the red and yellow away, and just call it a day. You got enough money for 10 lifetimes, let it be.
Just like I had mentioned this earlier to you guys, be careful if you want to pull back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz, because you have to be careful. You have to be ready to see what's behind that curtain. And a lot of the wrestling fans, certainly that night in LA, they'd seen enough.
There we go.
Yep. Let's get to the last one here, guys. From Eugene Rubin, question for Mick. In this day and age of fans holding up hundreds of signs at various arenas, back in the day, if a fan brought a sign in honor of Rocky Mountain Thunder, what would it read?
Sorry.
Well, first of all, the odds of that are kind of slim and none that anybody would bring a sign in honor of Rocky Mountain Thunder. But it's interesting, Chris.
I think that's probably the first time the word slim has ever been in the same sentence as Rocky Mountain Thunder, right?
Good point. Rocky, not the greatest technical wrestler in the world. I would say, it's interesting. Somebody did bring a sign to the showboat in honor of Rocky Mountain Thunder. And, being the historian, archivist that I am, I looked it up. And we have the picture ready to go of the one fan with the one sign that was put up to honor Rocky Mountain Thunder. And there you see it. Oh, look, nobody gives a shit. And there you go. That was Rocky's claim to fame back then. I'm not sure that in the age of technology, it would have, back then, it would have actually made television at the showboat. Probably weren't too many signs there in the audience, but that one was. And I looked it up, and I actually the internet doesn't lie. And I looked up, was there a sign honoring Rocky Mountain Thunder at the showboat in 1988? And this is what came up. There you go.
Poor Rocky Mountain Thunder.
Poor Rocky Mountain Thunder, my ass. God.
Well, yeah,
he's over on the podcast. He's over here. I mean, he gets his one.
He deserves the shit that we give him, because he was not a good wrestler. There's no denying it. Our only saving grace is that we weren't subjected to him more than we were. I mean, I think he did, was it 1 or 2 tapings? I think it was only 1. But I guess that was enough. I mean,
Yeah, I think crippling, one or two guys for life was probably enough for Vern. And it probably decided let's axe this guy while we can.
so I wonder if we had a crowd of AWA fans,
Mhm.
if we brought in Rocky Mountain Thunder and brought in Hulk Hogan, who'd get the bigger pop nowadays?
I think, boy, that's kind of a pick 'em there, isn't it?
No, this isn't even close. This is not even close. Rocky Mountain Thunder is over.
He would be over. Yeah,
he would be
absolutely.
over. He would be
Yeah,
over with our crowd.
He would have, especially with the Unleashed Army, he would have a cult following, and Rocky Mountain Thunder, the blip on the radar or the pimple on the ass of the AWA. Here we go.
Well put.
He gets more run here than he actually did in the promotion. Think about that.
Very true.
That he does. Good stuff,
right,
guys. Good show.
Yeah, this was good. Let's go ahead and promote once again TeePublic for all of our merchandise. I am going to get some Mickhead merchandise up if you guys would like that. Our cold merchandise, kind of a lovable dork. If you want that as well, if those are things you'd be interested, let me know and I'll throw something together. Also, Slick Mick cups, just kind of, whatever you would like to support your favorite AWA Unleashed podcast. As well as we do have our Patreon, $4.99. And by the way, if you guys are not a member of the Patreon, if there's something you would like that would entice you, let us know, because we're sitting here coming up with ideas. If there's something that you might find interesting, let us know. AWA Unleashed Podcast at gmail.com. Just let us know. If you're a member and you sign up, you're going to get access to our live chat. Our next one's on Sunday. You're going to get access to a monthly watch along, which is like Mystery Science Theater 3000 with the three of us over videos. Going to get exclusive interviews that we've got coming up. So we do have some things on the table as well. But again, email me and let me know your name and your address, so that way I can get some a little envelope of goodies to you, and Mick can also get you some pictures as well. So it's been a while since I've had to do that, so I had to try and remember how to do it. Hopefully that went well, and then we can do our shout outs and get the heck up out of here.
Absolutely. And as far as the Patreon is concerned, it was in the fledgling stages this year. Now we're starting to get into a role where we've examined what works, what doesn't work, and now's the time. Get on board. You will not regret it.
What works and what doesn't work? Does that mean this is my last show?
Well, all three of us.
Just wanted to clarify.
Pretty much it. My shout out this week goes to the lovely, the beautiful Naya Kennedy. A great friend of mine, lives out in the Denver area, attends Cauliflower Alley all the time. Huge Nick Bockwinkel fan. Worked in the business as a wrestler and a manager, and still follows the business closely. So Naya, love you, and shout out to you.
And my shout out goes to the person who got me hooked on the AWA to begin with. She brought me to the St. Paul Auditorium to witness Mad Dog versus Crusher in a steel cage match. And as I've said after I've told that story countless times over the years, I was hooked. And fast forward, and here I am doing a podcast about the AWA. And of course, it goes out to my mom, who lost a little over a week ago. Mom, thanks. You did a hell of a lot more than just got me hooked on professional wrestling. But as far as the AWA Unleashed Army, as far as doing this podcast, you're the biggest reason why I'm here telling these stories. Thank you.
Well, your mom did a great job. Your mom did a great job, Joe, and we're thankful for her. We're thankful for her influence on you, and I'm sure she was just an awesome, awesome individual. It sounds like, she was just the cat's meow. And so, yeah, our thoughts go out to you. Mine is not going to be AWA related. Mine's going to go out to my daughter as well. A little bit personal here, obviously, being my kid, but we've been going through some shit. And I just wanted to know that I'm here. And one of the reasons I do this podcast is for her to be able to just allow her the opportunity to do things that'll make her life better. And right now we're going through some things. So we're just going to keep tracking day by day. But, they say every day is a new opportunity. So, do the podcast and just try and help her through right now these difficult times the best that we can. So there we go. Anything else, guys?
I just want to say, as far as your daughter is concerned, I met her a couple of times and she lights up a room. That unreal smile, and God bless her. So you'll get through it. And for all of us, we're glad to be back doing what we do worst right here every week.
Tough to come up with something funny, quippy, like we've done, at least coming out of my head today. Two very sentimental tributes. I just want to end it, at least from my perspective, with this. Thanks to the two of you, we've got AWA Unleashed, and I am proud and happy to be a part of it. We had some time off in December, had to take last week off, but we're back and we're ready to march on and continue to tell those stories about all star wrestling.